Chapter 26. Our farm became a vacation spot for visiting relatives who knew nothing about riding a horse, milking a cow, or staking out a goat. It didn't make for good relations. Freya and Sig complained, "We have to spend half the day leading the kids around on a horse and the rest of the day with a pitchfork." We set up ground rules. Anybody who wanted to ride had to help with the chores. Otherwise, the visitors were out having all the fun while the regular crew was doing all the work. My sister Dora responded to the farm as expected. She and her 2 kids, dressed in their farm duds, threw themselves into the activities. Bud enjoyed the horses and helped with our first hay crop, but Jackie couldn't get within 10 feet of a horse without shaking. Dorothy couldn't understand Jackie's fear. She herself wasn't afraid of anything, and her performances were usually pretty daring, like the day she caught Flicka out in the pasture and jumped on even though she didn't have a bridle. She gave a tug on Flicka's mane and Flicka took off. Up and down the pasture she galloped, with Dor hanging on. Then Flicka headed for the hay trailer standing up near the fence. We stood there in horror, knowing that Flicka could squeeze through a space only half her size. "That's how she brushes off flies," Sigurd claimed. Now Flicka raced along between the trailer and the fence. Every time she'd go by a post, she would lurch, deliberately. You'd swear to the side, giving Dor a jarring crack on the knee. Finally, Dor flew off and went rolling down the hill. We had to drag her into the house, and I called the doctor. He ordered bed rest. Dor said, "I could have told you that." After that, when anyone fell off a horse, I called Dor. One cousin who spent almost every weekend at the farm was chubby, blonde, dimpled-faced Nina Oman, 1.5 years younger than Sig. She accepted the routine of our home, which was considerably more austere than her own. A no-frills diet, Saturday morning chores, and Sunday school. Nina considered herself a seasoned horsewoman, based solely on the fact that her birthday presents for 3 years in a row had been an hour ride at Rocky Butte Riding Academy. We let her bask in her glory, even though we knew that she was uncoordinated and couldn't ride worth a darn. We always held our breath when Nina rode. She was so roly-poly we were afraid she'd roll off. But one thing calmed our fears. We figured we would never have to call the doctor, or Dor, because her mother was a nurse, and she could prescribe bed rest as well as anyone else. One day, Nina phoned, "Be sure and watch Heck Harper's show. I'm going to be on it, and I'm going to tell him about my horseback riding." Every kid in the Northwest watched the Heck Harper TV program. "Oh boy, here's our opportunity for fame and fortune," Freya said. The next day we were glued to the set. We waited breathlessly while Heck Harper interviewed several girls, then came to Nina. "And do you have any hobbies?" he asked her. "Yep," Nina said and gave him her big dimpled smile. "Horseback riding." "That's a fine hobby. Where do you ride?" "Oh." She paused for a long moment as if the whole thing had slipped her mind. We waited for her words, figuring she had them well memorized. "At my Auntie Fran's farm with my cousins Freya Gustafsson, Sigurd Gustafsson, and Eric Gustafsson. They have 2 horses and their names are—" But that isn't what she said at all. She stammered. "I go to Rocky Butte Riding Academy." We were appalled. Our opportunity for fame was gone. On her next visit to the farm, she was met with hostility. Eric said, "Why don't you go ride a horse at Rocky Butte Riding Academy?" Dor's recovery from her spectacular fall gave her time to speculate about the direction of her life. My first hint of change was when a shiny new yellow Oldsmobile convertible pulled up. I didn't recognize the woman at the wheel. She wore huge dark glasses. Only when she stepped out of the car and walked up the path did I recognize my little sister. Instead of farm clothes, she wore a smart black sheath and a pair of spike heels. "Are you going to a wedding?" I asked. "Or a funeral?" Dor smiled like Mona Lisa as she settled gracefully into my old rocker. She answered in a softly modulated voice, "No, dear, I'm going to modeling school." "To what?" I stopped picking hayseed from my socks. She sat with her legs uncrossed, her hands folded gracefully, and like all stylish models, she didn't pick at anything. She explained that she had been motivated because of her new job. She was a legal secretary to some big wig attorney. And modeling school gives one poise and confidence. As far as I was concerned, Dor had always had poise and confidence. One of her assets was the result of an unfortunate accident. Her little finger had been chopped off and reattached, leaving her with an absolutely stiff finger. Ironically, whenever she drank from a cup, she looked like the Queen of England sipping tea, and it helps influence others by showing interest in their... She paused to weigh her words, but said what was on her mind anyway. Dull little lives. Ignoring her remark, she brightened. Tell me, what did you do today? Couldn't she tell by my clothes? Oh, I cleaned the chicken house and... Suddenly my world seemed shallow. My heart ached as I sensed a gap between us. I thought back to the years we'd shared together. Athletic competition, wild parties, overindulgence, and finally her 3 divorces and my heartbreaking experience that had led to our search for the meaning of life. The modeling concept wasn't totally new to me. Florence and I had gone to finishing school, where we had learned manners, and how to sit with our legs together so as not to expose our bloomers, and how to pronounce A-E-I-O-U while pressing on our diaphragms when walking downstairs with books on our heads. So when Dor hinted, very subtly of course, that there was room for improvement in my life, and whereas she was paying hundreds of dollars for the course, and she would teach me for free, I consented. First I had to lose weight, straighten up and walk like a prima donna, not like a poor peasant picking hayseed, give up red knee socks, and finally, I must remember always, that a well-dressed woman always wore high heels. The diet had been developed especially for Dorothy and her particular problems, but she didn't consider that any great handicap, even though she had always been on the low end of the scale, whereas my weighing in always brought comments like, "Watch out, you're going to break it." Then I went out and bought huge sunglasses and high heels. I began exercising with the lady on TV. I tried to keep my sessions private, but Eric would sneak in and laugh wildly. "Mama, you aren't doing it like the Wadi." Technical little genius. "Go wrestle the goat."